Have you ever stopped to ask yourself why the ones who are agreeable, pleasant, and endlessly accommodating always seem to be the ones passed over, stepped on, and forgotten, while the cold, strategic, and unapologetically self-serving keep rising? Why the man who refuses to bend seems to command attention without trying, while the man who bends for everyone spends his life asking to be noticed? This is not coincidence, it is design. The world does not reward the harmless, it exploits them. And those who are unafraid of offending, who can act without permission, who can make decisions without the burden of being liked, these are the ones who dominate. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this 5 centuries ago. He saw that power is not distributed according to fairness, morality, or even skill. It is claimed by those willing to play the game without sentiment. He knew that the world bows to those who can command it, not those who plead with it. And yet, most men still operate under the illusion that if they are good enough, kind enough, patient enough, power will somehow recognize their worth and come knocking. It won't. Power doesn't knock. It breaks the door down, and it belongs to the man willing to do the breaking. Every interaction you have is a negotiation for position, whether you realize it or not. Your words, your tone, your pauses, your silences, all of it sends a message. I am in control, or you are in control of me. The tragedy is that most men send the second message without meaning to. They lower their voice when challenged. They over-explain when questioned. They soften their stance when they feel tension in the room. And without knowing it, they bleed authority in front of those who are watching closely for weakness. Machiavelli would have called this the silent surrender, the loss of power without a battle. No war needs to be fought when one side has already submitted in mind and spirit. And that submission doesn't happen in one moment. It happens over a lifetime, in the hundreds of little concessions made for the sake of being liked, understood, or accepted. It happens when you hesitate to say what you think. It happens when you adjust your behavior to avoid the disapproval of someone whose respect you never really had. This is the first truth you must accept if you ever hope to command respect in a Machiavellian way. People do not rise because they are the most talented, the most skilled, or the most deserving. They rise because they understand the mechanics of fear, respect, and perception, and they are willing to act in ways others are too hesitant to consider. The men who refuse to bow first are the ones who find others bowing to them. The ones who can speak without trembling, decide without apology, and walk without seeking approval are the ones who bend the room around them without saying a word. If you have ever wondered why you remain overlooked, ignored, or underestimated, understand this. You are still asking for what others simply take. You are still waiting for a world that will never grant you permission. And the first step to changing this is not to speak louder, not to smile more, not to earn more praise, but to become the kind of man who does not need any of it to move forward. The kind of man who acts and forces the world to adjust. Power is rarely lost in a single dramatic event. More often it bleeds out in silence, in moments so small you barely notice them, yet each one leaves you weaker than before. You think you're avoiding conflict, keeping the peace, being the bigger person. In truth, you're teaching the world that your boundaries are flexible, that your time is negotiable, that your respect can be compromised without consequence. And once you've trained others to see you this way, they will never stop taking. Machiavelli understood this dynamic with surgical precision. The erosion of authority begins the moment you allow someone to believe they can act without fearing your response. Every apology you give when you've done nothing wrong, every extra explanation you provide to justify your decisions, every moment you stay silent when a line has been crossed, these are withdrawals from your bank of authority. At first, no one notices. But eventually they see the pattern. They see that you would rather be accepted than be respected, that you will trade control for comfort. And the instant they see this, you are no longer an equal in their eyes. You are a resource. You are someone to use, not someone to follow. Machiavelli warned against this trap centuries ago. In The Prince, he explained that the appearance of authority is often more critical than its actual possession. If people believe you have no will to act, no matter how much potential power you have, it might as well not exist. Authority, like a weapon, must be displayed, not to boast but to remind. The moment you stop reminding people where the limits are, they will test them. The moment you stop showing them what happens when those limits are breached, they will breach them again. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Weakness does not inspire kindness in others. It inspires appetite. Just as predators in the wild target the limping animal in the herd, people instinctively exploit those who show no capacity for consequence. They press harder. They ask for more. They take bigger risks against you because you've proven you won't push back. This isn't malice for its own sake. It's the nature of power. Someone will hold it in every interaction. If it isn't you, it will be them. And it doesn't stop with enemies. Even friends and family adjust their behavior based on what you tolerate. They may care for you deeply, but if they learn that you will always forgive, always accommodate, always absorb the discomfort so they don't have to, they will eventually cross lines they never would have dared at the start. Not out of cruelty, but out of conditioning. You taught them that you will take it, and they believed you. If you want to understand why you are overlooked, disrespected, or dismissed, you must be willing to see the leak in your power for what it is. It's not that others are inherently stronger, smarter, or more capable. It's that they move without asking for consent. They see space instead of waiting for it to be given. And the space they take almost always comes from men who, step by step, gave it away in the name of comfort, approval, and avoiding discomfort. The silent surrender begins in the smallest details. A handshake that's too soft, a glance downward when challenged, a maybe instead of a no. On their own, these seem insignificant. Together, they are a confession. They tell the world, "You don't have to fear me," and the world listens. Machiavelli's genius was not in inventing the rules of power. Those rules existed long before him. His genius was in stripping away the illusions that keep most men powerless and stating the truth without apology. One of his most famous and most hated conclusions was simple. It is far safer to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Most men recoil at this idea, clinging to the belief that love is the highest currency of leadership. They imagine that if they are admired enough, appreciated enough, liked enough, they will be safe. But Machiavelli knew better. Safety without fear is an illusion. Respect without consequences is a lie waiting to collapse. Fear creates boundaries that love cannot protect. Love invites warmth, but it also invites complacency and eventually exploitation. Fear, properly managed, keeps order even among those who would otherwise betray you. It draws a line in the sand, an unspoken understanding that certain actions will cost more than their worth. This is not about being a tyrant or inflicting cruelty for pleasure. Machiavelli never glorified pointless brutality. He glorified efficiency. To him, fear was not about causing pain. It was about removing doubt. When people know exactly what will happen if they cross you, they hesitate to do so, and hesitation is the foundation of control. The man who is only loved is at the mercy of the moods, emotions, and shifting loyalties of others. Affection fades. Gratitude evaporates. Admiration can be stolen by the next man who shines brighter. But fear endures as long as you can act on it. It is not emotional, it is practical. It does not depend on how they feel about you today. It depends on what they know you are capable of doing tomorrow. Here lies the Machiavellian paradox. A leader who is feared but fair is often more respected, and even more quietly loved, than the leader who is only kind. Why? Because people trust strength. They know where they stand with it. They know it won't crumble under pressure or dissolve at the first sign of resistance. The feared man is a fixed point in a chaotic world, and in chaos, stability is a form of comfort, even if it comes wrapped in intimidation. Machiavelli understood that fear, when controlled, builds a more reliable form of respect than love ever could. Love asks for loyalty, fear enforces it. Love hopes for obedience, fear secures it. The man who can blend the two, earning admiration while never letting go of the potential for consequence, stands at the apex of influence. But if you must choose, Machiavelli's counsel is clear. Choose fear. Not the wild, reckless fear born of cruelty, but the calculated, surgical fear that comes from discipline and decisiveness. If you are unwilling to cultivate this edge, you will always be vulnerable. You may be liked, you may be praised, But the moment someone sees an opportunity to take from you without cost, they will. And they will justify it with the same warmth they once showed you. Power is not kept by appealing to the best in people. It is kept by preparing for the worst in them. Power is not a gift that others bestow upon you out of goodwill. It is something you take, hold, and defend. Machiavelli knew this intimately. In The Prince, he warns that those who wait for permission to act will wait forever, because the world rarely rewards initiative it did not ask for. Yet most men sabotage themselves before they ever begin. They soften their victories with apologies. They dilute their authority with endless justifications. They lead, but only after making sure no one is offended by their leadership. This, in Machiavelli's eyes, is fatal. The truly powerful do not seek approval before making their move. They understand that hesitation invites competition. Every moment you spend explaining why you acted is a moment your rivals are acting themselves. When you apologize for being decisive, you send a silent message. My decisions are negotiable, and the moment people believe your decisions can be bent, they will test how far they can bend them. Think about how many opportunities have slipped away from you because you were waiting to be invited, recognized, or validated. How many times have you held back a decision until you felt you had enough support? Machiavelli would tell you that the only support that truly matters is the kind you build after you've taken action. When people see results and decide to align themselves with you because you've already proven you can move without them. Leaders are followed because they move first, not because they asked for a vote. There's a reason Machiavelli placed such importance on decisiveness. In politics, war, and life, uncertainty is a weapon your enemies will gladly use against you. If you waver, if you backpedal, if you leave the impression that you can be swayed by pressure, you've already ceded ground. The powerful make decisions quickly and adjust later if needed. The weak delay until the decision is made for them, and by then, it's too late to reclaim initiative. But there's a deeper layer here. Apologizing for power isn't just about words, it's about posture, presence, and the energy you bring into every interaction. Do you speak as if you're seeking permission to finish your sentence? Do you ask for consensus before you've even stated your stance? Do you dress, walk, and hold yourself as if you're trying to occupy less space than you deserve? These are all forms of silent apology, and silent apologies are still apologies. Machiavelli's counsel is brutal but clear. Take the space you need and hold it without shrinking. State your position without padding it in layers of self-doubt. Act as if your authority is already established, because hesitation will only convince others it isn't. Those who follow will respect the clarity of a leader who doesn't flinch under scrutiny. Those who oppose will think twice before testing someone who moves with conviction and without fear of disapproval. Power thrives in decisiveness, and decisiveness dies in apology. Stop asking the world if you're allowed to lead. Lead, and let the world adapt to you. Machiavelli lived in a time when politics was drenched in the language of virtue, yet powered by the machinery of ambition. He understood that morality, as most people practice it, is not an unshakable pillar of strength. It is often a leash tied to the neck of those who cannot imagine breaking it. And in The Prince, he makes this heretical point with surgical precision. The truly effective leader must know how to appear virtuous when it benefits him, and how to set virtue aside entirely when it becomes a liability. This is where the weak and the strong part ways. The weak believe that morality is absolute, that it must be upheld even when it destroys them. They cling to it in situations where it costs them leverage, safety, or opportunity, comforting themselves with the belief that doing the right thing will eventually be rewarded. But as Machiavelli knew, the world does not distribute rewards according to purity of heart. It distributes them according to control of outcomes. And morality that undermines your ability to secure those outcomes is not virtue. It is self-sabotage. The strong man treats morality as a sword, not a chain. He wields it when it enhances his image, builds alliances, or strengthens loyalty. He sheathes it when it weakens his position, clouds his judgment, or limits his range of action. This is not hypocrisy, it is strategy. Hypocrisy is pretending to be something you are not. Strategy is knowing when to use each tool at your disposal. And morality, whether you want to admit it or not, is a tool. Consider this: appearing righteous can open doors that force cannot. A reputation for fairness can inspire trust among allies and compliance among subordinates. But once morality becomes a predictable reflex, once everyone knows exactly what you won't do, you have given them the blueprint for your defeat. They now know which lines you will never cross, which tactics you will never use, and which opportunities you will always let pass. That knowledge makes you predictable, and predictability is fatal in the arena of power. Machiavelli did not suggest abandoning morality entirely. In fact, he understood its value as a shield, but he also knew that a shield becomes a coffin if you hide behind it in every battle. As man who refuses to adapt his tactics because of some abstract moral ideal will always be outmaneuvered by the man who treats morality as one weapon among many, powerful but not sacred. If you are always honest, they will learn to deceive you. If you are always merciful, they will test your tolerance. If you are always bound by principle, they will bind you with it. This is not theory. This is the pattern of history. The rulers who survived the longest were those who could wear the mask of virtue while holding the dagger of necessity behind their back. The ones who refused to take off the mask when the moment demanded action did not survive. The lesson is not to discard morality altogether, but to stop worshipping it. Treat it as a tool in your arsenal, one that can inspire loyalty, disarm suspicion, and rally support. But when morality threatens to chain your hands while your enemies move freely, drop it. The world will respect results far more than it will remember the ideals you died defending. Every single interaction you have is training. You are teaching the people around you, friends, enemies, subordinates, even strangers, exactly how far they can go with you. And here is the brutal truth. Machiavelli would have no hesitation in stating, if you do not enforce limits, you are teaching them that you have none. This training happens quietly, almost invisibly. The colleague who interrupts you in a meeting, you let it slide. The friend who borrows money and delays repayment, you don't press it. The relative who makes a harmless joke at your expense, you laugh along. Each time you fail to respond, you reinforce the same lesson. There are no consequences here. And the human mind, just like a predator's instinct, cannot resist pushing further when the prey does not push back. Machiavelli understood that authority is not declared, it is demonstrated. You do not announce your boundaries, you enforce them. And you do not enforce them once, you enforce them every single time they are tested. The man who reacts decisively to even the smallest violations sends a message far louder than words. I am not to be trifled with. The man who lets small things go trains others to escalate until those small things become major violations. This is not about pettiness, it's about precedent. In The Prince, Machiavelli warns that allowing small acts of defiance or disrespect to pass unchecked invites greater acts later, because the initial breach proves that you will tolerate it. Think of it as erosion. A river does not carve stone in a single surge, but in a million gentle passes. Power works the same way. You do not lose it all at once. You lose it drip by drip in 1,000 little moments where you chose comfort over confrontation. And here is where most men fail. They believe they can suddenly reverse the pattern after years of tolerance. But by the time you decide to draw a line, the world has already learned the lesson you spent years teaching it, that you can be pushed, delayed, manipulated, or ignored without penalty. Reversing this requires a transformation not in what you say, but in how you act, consistently and without compromise. Machiavelli would tell you to make your boundaries a matter of reputation. Let it be known, even among those who dislike you, that disrespect carries a cost, and make that cost visible. This is not about rage or uncontrolled emotion, it is about calculated, proportionate response. When someone crosses the line, act with the precision of a surgeon. No excess, no wasted movement, but absolutely no hesitation. Over time, your reputation will begin to work for you, sparing you from having to enforce those boundaries as often. The reality is simple. People adjust to the behavior you allow. If you tolerate lateness, they will be late. If you accept disrespect, they will disrespect you. If you absorb betrayal without consequence, you are inviting the next one. This is not pessimism. It is human nature. Machiavelli's brilliance was in recognizing that you can either be a passive participant in this conditioning, or you can be its architect. And the man who becomes the architect shapes his world instead of being shaped by it. Power is not always loud. In fact, the most dangerous form of power is often silent, the kind of presence that changes the temperature in a room the moment you enter it, without a single word being spoken. Machiavelli understood that true authority comes not from constant displays of dominance, but from the possibility of dominance, from the unspoken awareness that you could act decisively and without hesitation, even if you choose not to. A Machiavellian presence is not built through empty bravado or reckless aggression. It is built through control of your words, your movements, your facial expressions, even your breathing. The man who cannot control himself will never control others. If your voice shakes under pressure, if your posture collapses when challenged, if your emotions leak into every response, you are broadcasting your weaknesses to the world, and once they see them, they will use them. Think about the difference between a man who reacts to provocation instantly and one who takes a long pause before responding. The first reveals his triggers, the second forces his opponent to wonder if they've even hit the mark. Machiavelli would always favor the second. Unreadability is a weapon. If they can't predict your moves, they can't prepare for them. And if they can't prepare, they hesitate, giving you the advantage before the game has even begun. This presence also comes from consistency. The moment you are unpredictable in your standards, strict one day, passive the next, you undermine your own mystique. A true Machiavellian presence is steady. People know you will enforce your boundaries, but they never know when or how. That uncertainty breeds a kind of respect that friendliness alone cannot buy. Another pillar of this presence is selective engagement. Not every challenge deserves a response. The man who reacts to everything is ruled by others' agendas. The Machiavellian chooses his battles with precision, ignoring minor irritations to focus his energy on the moments that truly matter. When he strikes, it is deliberate and final, and because his action is rare, it carries far greater weight. Machiavelli knew that most people exhaust themselves trying to appear strong in every moment. But strength is not in constant performance. It's in control over performance. To command a room, you do not need to speak the most, move the most, or take up the most space. You need to make it clear, in ways that are almost intangible, that you are a fixed point in a world of moving parts, that you will not be moved unless you choose to move. When you master this, something shifts. You no longer have to prove yourself in every interaction. Your reputation does the work before you open your mouth. And the unspoken awareness of what you are capable of becomes the very thing that keeps others in line. That is the Machiavellian presence, quiet, deliberate, and infinitely more intimidating than the loudest threat. Machiavelli's writings were not meant for the comfortable. They were meant for those willing to see the world as it is, not as they wish it to be. And here is the unvarnished truth he understood. Power does not bow to morality, to kindness, or to fairness. It bows only to will, the unwavering decision to act when others hesitate. The men who rise are not the ones who wait for the perfect moment, nor the ones who ask for approval before they move. They are the ones who decide that now is the moment, and make it so. If you are tired of being underestimated, disrespected, or overlooked, stop looking for someone to hand you authority. No one will. Power is taken, not given. And taking it requires that you kill the fear that keeps you still. Not by pretending danger doesn't exist, but by mastering yourself so completely that danger no longer dictates your choices. The man who fears no one is not reckless. He is calculated. He has faced his own doubts, stripped away his illusions, and built a foundation that cannot be shaken by insult, rejection, or threat. This path is not gentle. It demands discipline that most will never touch. It requires silence when you want to speak, patience when you want to act, and precision when you finally move. It means holding yourself to a standard so high that the opinions of lesser men no longer carry weight. It means becoming dangerous, not in the sense of random violence or chaos, but in the sense that provoking you has consequences no one wants to face. Machiavelli knew that the feared man, when fair, is often more trusted than the loved man without strength, because strength creates clarity, and clarity is rare in a world where most people live behind masks of indecision and approval-seeking. If people know where they stand with you, that you will not tolerate disrespect, that you will not bend under pressure, that you will act without hesitation, they will tread carefully, even if they dislike you. And in the realm of power, careful respect is worth more than fleeting affection. Do not waste your energy trying to be liked by everyone. You do not need to be loved. You do not need to be understood. You need to be undeniable. And you become undeniable when your presence alone alters the behavior of those around you. When your silence carries weight. When your boundaries are unquestioned, when your decisiveness shapes the outcome before others even realize the game has started. The path to sovereignty begins when fear ends. And fear ends when you master yourself. If you want to step into that path, stop apologizing for your strength. Stop hiding behind virtue when it no longer serves you. Stop teaching people that they can take from you without paying the price. Stand still when others push. Speak less when they demand explanation. And when you act in a way that leaves no doubt, no room for negotiation, and no possibility of reversal. Machiavelli would leave you with this: fortune favors the bold, but only the bold who are disciplined enough to strike with purpose. Become that man, and you will no longer chase power. Power will begin to orbit you. Fear no one, and watch how quickly the world learns to fear you.